Welcome to the Menowave Lounge, where the journey through menopause becomes an exhilarating ride. We are your hosts, Marti Daly and Robin Duke. As Menowave care providers, we're here to create a warm and welcoming space where we can talk openly about the ups, downs, and everything in between when it comes to navigating the menowave of menopause. In the Menowave Lounge, we'll dive deep into all things menopause, offering valuable insights and shedding light on those topics that are often mysterious and confusing. Whether you're in the midst of those sizzling hot flashes or just looking for some cool conversations and expert advice, this is the show for you. Join us in our team of expert care providers, from health professionals to holistic practitioners to coaches, as we explore the transformative journey of menopause together. We know that during this stage of life, there are plenty of questions, concerns, and experiences that can feel very overwhelming. And the lack of women who actually want to talk about it can feel very lonely. But fear not, we're here to provide the support you need as we all ride the Menowave together. Each episode will be joined by a variety of inspiring Menowave care providers who have walked this path as well, sharing their voices and offering valuable advice. So don't miss out on the laughter, the tears, and the camaraderie. Tune in now and let's ride this wave together. Welcome to the Menowave Lounge, hot flashes and cool conversations.
Welcome to Menowave Lounge Podcast, hot flashes and cool conversations with Marti and Robin. Hey there, welcome everyone. How you doing, Marti?
Thank you for asking. Quiet after an entire summer of a house full of kids. My kids went back to school yesterday. So we had that little initial stress of running around, making sure everybody has their school supplies and they're processing, but they're at school and I get a chance. It's just me at home. My husband does his job and it's quiet. So it's awesome. How about you? I understand that you've been dealing with some temperature fluctuations, but you got to go to the beach, but it's hot. Tell me more.
Oh, yeah. This is all day hot flash, man.
What?
It's 104 here, so you can't tell if you're having a hot flash if it's stepping outside,
Right? Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Well, I've headed down to the beach, and so the beach, you go 5 miles out of town, and it's 100, and then 5 miles in, and it's 78 degrees. It's yeah, sticking your toes in the sand and getting some beach water on you. It's been really nice. But I'm really happy to be here tonight because we are going to talk about sleep problems, and mood swings. And we're going to be talking about those pesky, inconvenient, unexpected, always unwanted mood swings that create crying jags and out of control bursts of anger and flashes of bright red rage. We've all been there. We know what this means. Okay.
That one's my personal favorite. I call it the white hot rage. Sometimes when it's happened to me, but we know what that is.
Oh yeah. And it happens so quickly too.
Yeah.
And you're just there, So what do you do when you get to that point? Well, we're going to talk about that today. But first, we're going to have an icebreaker. I think you're going to love this one, Marti. Have you ever had a thermostat war at work or at home over hot flashes?
Yeah, I freeze my family out on a regular basis. They just know they've given up on arguing with me about it. But our basement is always cooler than the rest of the house, and I've got 2 kids sleeping down here. And so every so often I'll notice the thermostat creeps up a little bit and I squash it. Then I bring it back down and they know better than to argue with me. But the funnier though, thermostat war is actually not in the house. It's in the car. It's between my husband and I because he loves riding around with fresh air, windows down, hot wind in his hair. And even when I'm not having a hot flash, I'm not about that. I don't like the hot air on me. I don't like the hair going across my face, sticking to my lips. It's why don't I just sit here with a hair dryer and just blow that on me for a while? So we'll go back and forth on that because I just can't stand getting in the car and having this hot, stale, stagnant air. I've got to have the air conditioner running on me, even a little bit in the wintertime, especially when it's the hot flash, because then everything just gets all over the place. But that's where it is. It's in the car, is the air conditioning wars.
Yeah, I can totally very much relate to that because my big battle is at night when I'm having a hot flash and I stick a leg out, right? And you let your leg hang there for a while because it's your thermostat. And then, your temperature comes down. It's like, oh, now I'm a little cool. And bring it back in and I'll roll over and I'll sleep a little bit. And then next thing you know, I'm having a hot flash and I'm like sticking my other leg out and waiting for it to cool off because it's cooling off the rest of my body, right? So I'm going back and forth like that, So, I mean, currently right now, my hot flashes aren't, like super off the charts, but I still have them and I'm, 60 years old. So I don't know if that's to say that they go away. Some people don't have them, some people do, but that's my story about, I just switched my leg out, put it back in. I think a lot of women do that too.
Yeah, the worst part is when you do that and then it gets cold and then it wakes you up because you just cannot fall asleep, which ties in beautifully. What we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to just jump into some sleeping problems, things that happen. And I just want to say before we jump into this is everybody has a little bit different sleeping problems, sleeping disorders. So what we're here to do is just provide some really good information and you can pick and choose whatever works for you and leave the rest behind. Some of it is really fun and some of it will work for you. Some of it won't. So here we go. The first thing that I wanted to talk about is the importance of establishing a routine. Okay, a routine before you go to sleep, because this is the time when you start getting your mindset set up for sleeping. And this is the purpose of having a routine at night. And it's good to develop a regular one, do the same steps every night. I mean, sometimes it's getting yourself into having a cup of hot tea, like chamomile tea. Maybe it's taking a nice cool shower, warm shower before you go to bed. It's making sure that you're going to sleep at a consistent time. That really helps. Even if it's on the weekend or on the evening during the week, just make sure that you stick to a good time every night that you go to sleep. That really helps to set up a routine that your body will start adapting to. And also, too, waking up, you wake up at 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock. I like 8 o'clock, but my body now will naturally wake up at 8 o'clock. And, and even if I don't set the alarm clock, it will still. And that's the same thing with the evening. Have a routine of a time that you go to bed. And then we'll talk a little bit about later on about how to create that really cool environment so that you can sleep. What do you think, Marty? Do you have a routine?
I do have a routine, but I just wanted, before I talk about it, I want to say part of the reason why it is so important that we have a routine at all is because we want our subconscious mind to start creating connections between sleep and sleep related activities. So that when I start doing my routine and I start going from like full on mom mode, wife mode, family mode to like, okay, my mind's like, oh, okay, Marty's starting to do this. She's starting to take off her makeup. She's starting to do these little things. Okay, sleep must be coming. And my mind starts to associate what I'm doing with what's coming next. And so, one of the things I want to say as far as creating good sleep associations is talking about using your bed and your bedroom for sleep related activities only. Oh, and sex. Of course, sleep and sex for your bed and your bedroom. That way, your mind starts associating the whole entering of the bedroom, crawling into bed with sleep and sleep related activities. And a lot of us are working from home, if we have a smaller space, have gotten into the habit of using our bed or our bedroom or setting up a home office in there. And that's just not really good for training the mind for bringing sleep because when we've got work there, that's associating, we're going into the bedroom or we're sitting in our bed with work. And so then all the stuff that's going on at work, anything that's bothering you, anything unfinished, or if we're paying bills in bed, then we're starting to think about, oh my gosh, this bill, I don't want to have to pay it. That starts interfering with our sleep. So as much as we can, separate that out of our bed and our bedroom.
Good point.
So, and then getting along with a bedtime routine, again, why it's so important is think of our kids, those that have children or grandchildren, remember putting them to bed. There was a reason we did that. We need to do that for ourselves as well. We start with maybe a warm bath with the children and then brushing the teeth, and they're starting to realize, okay, sleepy time's coming. Their brains start to associate each next step with sleep. We can do the same thing. Just as those activities created a connection in our children's mind subconscious, it does with us. So yes, a routine, a bedtime, putting ourselves to bed is so super important. So just creating our own just allows us to wind down, to relax, creating those good associations. And since your bed in your bedroom is only associated with sleep related activities or intimate time, that's your mind and body's final cue to start going to sleep.
That's awesome. And that's so true. And it's really about how we get into those habits, training our mind to like, okay, this is what we're doing now. Thank you, Marty, for sharing that. Golly, that's so good. The other part of this is creating like a sleep friendly environment in your room. And this is really important to be able to make sure that your room is conducive to sleep. So have soft lighting. If you like your room dark or dim, because if you have bright lights, that's a signal to your brain that you're waking up. Having a very comfortable temperature. I like to have a fan that just kind of oscillates. Number one, it just circulates the air in the room. Number two, it's a little bit of white noise that if your brain tunes into that, and it'll start calming you down. Sometimes I'll have like soft music, soft lighting before I go to bed. It helps my mind to just start settling down. Another thing that is really important is tuning into your sense of smell. I have lavender oil, rosemary, sandalwood, and sometimes I'll have it in a diffuser. Sometimes I'll just have it open, maybe on my dresser, but the air circulating will just breathe this beautiful whiff of a scent, especially if you have like a really good memory associated with any of those scents. That'll bring that back down. And then it also helps you just like have
Yeah.
that calming sense. And once you start really putting together how you want to create that environment. If you have a favorite pillow, a lot of us have the cooling pillows and the cooling blankets. Those have been really popular and talked about on a lot of the posts. And I've actually tried the cooling pillow. It's wonderful. Even your routine about, like Marty was talking about, taking your makeup off, maybe having a hot shower, just all these different things are like getting your brain ready to shut down, right?
Yeah. I love that you said about the cooling color. I actually had my husband get me one of the cooling blankets that was recommended on the ladies were talking about in the group. And yeah, it's really cool. Literally. I like it. Another thing I wanted to tack on to that, because a lot of us, myself included, sometimes like to, when we're in bed, we have this tendency to get on our phones and scroll through social media, or we're reading a book on a tablet, or we're watching TV. And I've always heard that you really want to stop doing that about a half hour before bedtime. And the reason why is the blue light that those electronics emit trick our minds into thinking it's daylight. And because they mimic daylight and then suppress the melatonin that we would ordinarily start to produce around bedtime. And so the electronics light will mess that up. So it's keeping that in mind. And then also being mindful of the content that you are consuming right before bedtime from your TV shows, from social media and all of that. If you're reading stuff that's upsetting or scary or sad or tragic or any of those things, well, since that's the last thing that you put into your mind before you went to sleep, your mind is just going to want to churn on that all night long. And this just adds to the problem. Reading, if you're reading like an actual paper book, is a much better choice. But again, paying attention to the content you're consuming. Don't be reading that thriller or that scary horror book right before bed. Read something uplifting, something relaxing, something lighter than that to help go into sleep.
That's so true. That's so true. Because so many of us are still so connected to our phones and our tablets and everything. And if you can get in the habit of putting like the phone away, the tablet away, even putting it into the other room and just
Mhm.
actually using a real alarm clock. I mean, oh my God, what would what's that look like? There's a lot of really great relaxation techniques. And some of the ones that, and Marty's going to talk a little bit about this too, but some of the stuff that I like doing is I like doing a little meditation before I go to bed. I incorporate the deep breathing. It kind of helps me to shake it off. Sometimes even a little bit of yoga or stretching. That can definitely start refocusing your mind. And doing that just kind of helps you like for me, okay, this is my little thing. I love slipping into fresh, clean sheets, cool sheets. And then I just stretch out like a cat and I do my meditation. I get into my head and then I leave myself with some really happy thoughts. who I am, what a great day it was, sending love out to my family, gently stretching my neck, my arms, letting all that go. And believe me, it really just turns that dial down. One of the other things, if I can't sleep, I'll turn on sound of waves or forest. I like the waves. I'm a beach girl. So for me, just tuning in when I'm meditating to hear the beach waves, rolling in and rolling out, rolling in, rolling out. That just totally does it for me. And then I'm in la la land. What does it for you,
Well,
Marty?
those are amazing. Those are wonderful. Especially like you said with the reviewing your whole day of all the good things, all those positive things, how much love you have for your family. Like you said, I think that's amazing. Because again, going back to what are you putting in your mind? What is your last thought right before you go to sleep? That's very powerful because when you have those kinds of emotions, those kinds of feelings and thoughts with the love, with the appreciation, with the gratitude, that just sets you up when you're sleeping, just a more restful and better and a good experience. I like what you said about the breathing. I'm a big fan of the deep breathing as a hypnotist. Part of my process in getting my clients into a relaxed state of mind involves a lot of deep breathing. So I always have them take a few deep breaths before we begin anything, just because even if you take a deep breath now, you just feel your muscles relaxing when you exhale because it's such a powerful feeling. My mother-in-law actually a few years back had sent me this breathing exercise that she had come across by Dr. Andrew Weil. It's called the 478 breathing exercise. And I'm just going to read it off here so I get it right. But to sum it up, first thing you want to do is when you're laying there is inhale through your nose to a slow mental count to 4. Hold your breath for a slow mental count to 7. Exhale completely through your mouth, making a sound for a slow mental count of 8. So you would be exhaling for 8 counts. And then my addition to that is pay attention to the feeling in your body when you're exhaling. Just noticing, pay attention to how you feel more relaxed. It kind of helps the mind condition to relaxation. And then you just repeat that exercise 3 or 4 times or 3 times more till you have a total of 4. It's important to note and remember that it might take you some time. It might take you a few months even to really perfect this exercise until it's a point where you can fall asleep much faster. So don't get discouraged. I'm a big fan of practice makes perfect when we do these things and just continuing to practice a couple of times daily. And at the beginning, you're still awake after this exercise and move on to another exercise, feeling good and just feeling good about the fact that you practice it.
Yeah, that just even helped me just to calm down.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I could go sleep to that. So it's
Yeah.
really good.
It's
I'm gonna
awesome.
try that tonight.
Yeah, I do variations of it. There's other things that work for me, which I'll share, but this is also a really good one because if it works for my mother-in-law, who's obviously she's in her 70s now, it's very helpful. Another one, you talk about meditation before you go to bed and listening to those. There's self-hypnosis recordings that do that. I even have one as myself that you can put on, listen to, reach out to me, and I can send it to you. But basically, we call it as a progressive relaxation. So what you do is you're laying there in bed and you just start imagining that you're relaxing the muscles from the top of your head, from your scalp muscles down through your face, your shoulders, your chest, your back, all the way down out through the tips of your toes, just imagining each muscle group relaxing, allowing yourself to feel it. And what often helps is tense that muscle up. Like if I'm talking about my forehead, I'm going to tense my forehead muscles up and then relax. Exactly. Because you feel that relaxation and you just keep going through there till you've gone through your whole body and you've either bored yourself to sleep or at the very end, you're very, very relaxed, taking a deep breath and enjoying it. And then one of the ones that has been my go-to recently, the last couple of years, I love it. I call it the sleepy place. And this involves imagination. So twofold. I mean, imagination, the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between what's real and what is imagined, but it also gives your mind something to do other than churn over the 9 gazillion other things that it wants to churn over. So what's that? Worries, fills. And yeah, so I call them the hamster on the wheel, which I'm going to talk about those in a minute too. But what I like to do with the sleepy place is I like to imagine that I am just extremely exhausted. I mean, physically and mentally to the bone, tired, just worn out. All I want to do is sleep and I want the opportunity to sleep. I'm so tired, I can hardly keep my eyes open. And all I want to do is lay down in a comfortable place and sleep for 8 hours. And in this scene, I'm presented with an opportunity to get 8 to 10 hours of uninterrupted sleep in a comfortable bed in the dark, no sounds, set up exactly as I like. There's nothing I have to do but sleep. I have no responsibilities. I've got nothing. It's just the only thing I have to do is fall asleep. And so I imagine myself going to the door, opening up to this sleepy place, entering into this beautiful, comfortable bedroom, and just lay there and just lay there in bed. I just imagine building it. What is it? What's my pillow like? Do I have lavender scent through it? And just really just focus on how good it feels to finally, I'm so tired, to actually get to do that. It actually works. I mean, again, like I said, with the breathing technique, you want to practice and go there. Either I fall asleep before I get to the point where I just even start seeing the door to the sleepy place. I'm like, okay, that's where I'm going. And I'm out.
Oh,
So
that's pretty awesome because
yeah.
I'll tell you right now, if I had my pillow with me, I'd probably be out right now.
Yeah.
Yes. And those are some really great techniques. And the only one that I could add to it is I like being in the present now
Mhm.
with my smells and thinking about my happy place. But when I start feeling like my mind is wandering back to, something that was going on in the day, then I bring it back. Like, okay, this is where I am. I'm in my sleeping place. I'm feeling comfortable. I hear my music and I'm in my most comfortable position that I can be in. I'm breathing in. And next thing you know, I'm just allowing my mind to rest. So wonderful tips, wonderful techniques. Please tell us what you think about those in the comments below. But yeah.
Well, and to add on to what you were saying with about coming back into the present with all of the stuff that's gone on during the day, that's where I talk about we calm the hamsters on the wheel. And so another technique, especially if you're someone who does, you lay in bed and all of a sudden your mind's taking advantage of that quiet time to go, hey, remember that this thing you didn't do, or remember that stupid thing that you said at work, or do you remember? And to calm that down, a really good practice to get into if you struggle with that is keep a journal, keep a pad of paper or a pen next to your bed. Maybe you can even make this part of your putting yourself to bed or your bedtime routine is to just reflect on your day, write down any unfinished business that you didn't get to. Maybe there's a deadline you need to meet. Maybe you need to pay a bill, whatever it is. Just write that down, anything that's unfinished, and then assign a day and a time tomorrow or the next day or next week that you're going to deal with it. If it's 2 a.m. and something pops in your mind, it's just not letting you go because it's like, hey, remember you did, you need to do this, or my gosh, you need to check and make sure this, whatever it is, get up, write that down. But it's important to say when you're going to deal with it. Now, whether you actually do it that time, it doesn't matter, because what you're wanting to do in that moment is to give your mind permission to let that go. So what's happened, it's like, okay, you know what, mind? I'm going to deal with that Wednesday at 2. I'm going to do that. And your mind will be like, okay, I guess I don't need to bug you about that anymore. All right, we get to sleep. And again, don't get so tired with thinking of when can I deal with this? Just trick yourself. Say, okay, well, I'll deal with it tomorrow at noon or something like that. It's a really good technique just to bring yourself back into the present, to deal with the stuff that needs to be dealt with at a different time, not at 10 o'clock at night when you want to go to bed.
I want to interject one thing because that, before I forget and before I get the next wonderful thing, is that if you have dreams, especially vivid dreams, and they may wake you up, writing them down, even if it's just a couple words of what it was in that dream, it's like, as soon as when you wake up, your dreams start kind of fading away.
90% of your dreams you forget within 10 seconds of your feet hitting the floor.
Exactly. So if it wakes you up, write something down about it. Because there's been some really cool dreams that I've had. And I'm like, oh, I just wish I would, remember that. Yeah. So writing it down, the next day, it does come back to you. And then the second thing that I wanted to say is that when we're dreaming, it's a way for our mind to work out what's going on. So it's processing subconsciously all the stuff that is working on you and everything. So yeah, you do have to balance that. And like what Marty said, if your mind is starting to go and salivate on something, go write it down and say, I'll deal with that tomorrow. You have a great dream, write it down, because then I'm to share the next day.
Yeah. And one of the things about dreams that's cool too is that, our subconscious mind uses, and again, the playground in which I work is the subconscious mind, but it deals a lot with symbolism and imagery and metaphors and such. And what's really cool when you write down what's in your dreams, you can also look back and see what patterns are showing up, or maybe you dream about the same thing over and over again. I mean, there was a period of time in my life when I would dream about planes crashing, not me being on a plane crash, but seeing planes crashing. I discovered that kind of tied into periods of my life where I felt out of control. I felt very stressed, or I felt like something bad was going to happen that I couldn't do anything about. And so, like you said, when you were sleeping, our mind is processing through that kind of stuff. And it can sometimes come up in just interesting symbolism. I've kept a dream journal for years, and it's really cool to see. But getting back to what you were saying, Robin, about putting on music or the waves sound or the forest or that, the sound machine is a really good idea to have. I have one as well because my husband's CPAP machine makes a lot of noise. Or actually doesn't. It's I take that back. It's actually very quiet, but I'm a very light sleeper. And that's what I want to talk about next is a lot of us have hypervigilance. And I think that's with me too. I'm a very light sleeper. I hear everything. We're not even talking snoring. I'm hearing breaths too loud. That will wake me up. So I have my sound machine on that. But one of the reasons that this can show up for people like me is our subconscious minds are always looking out for us. It's always trying to protect us, take care of us. And our conscious mind is trying to also control our environment. And you cannot control your environment by staying awake and listening for every single noise, being aware of everything. Instead, just understand that your subconscious mind is always paying attention, is always looking out for you. So if something really needed your attention, trust that your subconscious mind will know the difference. If someone's banging on the door, or I remember this happened, I had a septic tank and I had an alarm going off in the basement. I didn't hear it. My subconscious mind tuned in that there was something amiss, and I got up and I looked around and then I heard it. Just trust, because you will wake up if you need to. But just knowing and trusting that your subconscious mind will wake you up can, again, give your conscious mind, okay, you don't need to be a track of every single sound, every single stimulation in your room.
Well, this goes back to, how you're training your mind, how you are developing habits, and how you are setting yourself up to process, number one, starting to set the environment, having a routine, how you're doing your sounds, your breathing, your meditation, stretching, making sure things are comfortable, what to do if your brain is chasing did you say
Hamster.
squirrels? You said
Squirrels, hamsters in the wheel, running.
yeah. So these are all things that we wanted to bring to you and just let you try some of these things.
If you try all these things and you're still not sleeping, first of all, if you've been doing this for about 20 minutes, just stop, get up, get out of bed, go do something else. Because what you don't want to do, again, while we want to create connections in our mind between our bed and sleep, we also want to avoid creating connections in our mind of bed and tossing and turning and having just a miserable time. So just get up, go do something else for a little bit, and until you get tired again, and try it again. And if that doesn't work, here's the last thing that I share with my clients and that I have learned, and it's been really, really helpful for me, because if you're like me and you can't sleep, then you start worrying about, well, God, tomorrow I'm going to be a wreck. It's going to be bad. I'm going to be tired. I'm going to be grumpy. And so then that starts leading to more anxiety of, well, I can't sleep. I can't sleep. It's not going to be restful sleep, which then triggers like cortisol, the fight or flight cortisol, and it's messing with all of our sleep. So what I want to say is introducing a concept that I call become a fan of powering down and let go of the need for perfect sleep every night. And so what I mean by powering down is this. Like I said, I am a hypnotist, and when we talk about hypnosis, what we're referring to is a natural state of consciousness that our minds go into and out of several times throughout the day on its own. It goes through this level of consciousness right when we're about to fall asleep, and also right when we're waking up. We go through it naturally. It's just a relaxed state of mind. Now, here's what's interesting. Oftentimes when we struggle to sleep, it's because we're actually hanging out in that zone, which is really, really cool. And the way that you know that you're hanging out in that zone, I don't know if you've ever had this happen, but you lay there and you kind of think your eyes are closed and you're trying to fall asleep. And let's say that it's like 1:15. And then you think you've been doing this for like 10 minutes, and you look at the clock and now it's 3 in the morning. And you're like, dang it, an hour and a half I'm wasting. But you don't realize that an hour and a half or so has passed. That's because you've been in this midway zone. And that's actually really, really cool, because here's a little secret. No matter what I'm working on with my clients, when we're done with the session and they come back to alertness, they feel like they've woken up from a very restful nap. In fact, some of them will swear up and down that they like, well, Marty, I was actually sleeping during that time. And I said, you actually weren't, because I've been asking questions and they're giving me responses. So they're connected with me, but they're thinking that, oh, I may have fallen asleep, and they're surprised that an hour's gone by or they thought it was only 10 minutes. And so they feel like they've woken up from a nice, restful nap. So knowing that, and they feel relaxed, they feel rejuvenated. Obviously, we want that restful, deep, healing, restorative sleep. But the next best thing is powering down. Just allowing yourself to power down, knowing, okay, well, I didn't get the deep, restful sleep, but I powered down. My mind relaxed, my body relaxed. Much better than feel worried about being exhausted or feeling exhausted from tossing and turning and stressing all night long.
Wow. I call it the twilight zone, when you're in that half sleep kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can get a lot of rest there in
Well, if you know that if you know that that's going to happen, and you just embrace that, it's like, okay, well, if I hang out there for an hour and 40, instead of going, oh, hour and 45 minutes, I'm still awake. Oh, it was an hour and 45 minutes of power down. Okay, I got some rest.
Yeah.
Well, less than ideal rest, but better than none.
Yeah, sometimes when I take those power naps, that's kind of like the zone that I'm in. And
Mhm.
I realize that I'm there because I can't completely go to sleep, but I know that I'm in relaxation.
Exactly.
So yeah.
Next best thing to a good night's sleep.
Great point. Thank
Yeah.
you. The last thing, I just wanted to just talk a little bit about supplements in a quick minute. And some people like supplements, and supplements can be good. We have a lot of people that talk about using melatonin, valerian root, CBD products, and these can be very helpful for sleep quality. However, we're not doctors, we're not physicians, and we always say that before you try any supplement that's new, please make sure you reach out to your doctor and learn how it works for you. Okay, so don't just take our word for it. Check with a professional. We're going to step into mood swings and what causes them. Mood swings are definitely the fluctuation of our hormone level. And this happens during menopause, and it definitely contributes to our mood. And our mood swings can create everything from crying jags to indecision, just restlessness. It can spike up to I'm just really angry, or in the ragey hormones, or somebody just looks at you wrong and you're just like, "Rah," and you got to get pulled off the ceiling kind of thing. And there are some things that we can talk about. Always with your hormones, you're always trying to balance it, number one. So working with your physician or whatever method that you're using to help balance out those hormones, but you're still going to have those ups and downs in those mood swings. So here are some things that you can do to help you through them and realize, number one, what's up with your body, so that you're not like freaking out about it. And you know that this is normal to have these emotional ups and downs, but then there are things that are in your control that you can use to help you when you're in that moment. The one thing that I would always say is just be aware when you're in the moment that you feel that, because then you can step in and go, okay, I know what this is. You can say, this never used to happen to me. But as your hormones are thinning, right, then your emotions are a lot more closer to the surface. Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to manage your emotions on an emotional, mental way, and then also on a physical way. So stress management techniques. So, what do you think, Marty?
Well, yeah, I mean, gosh, the mood swings, light, hot rage, the crying. My first indication that I was definitely into perimenopause, moving into this next phase of life, it didn't occur to me at all, but I threw a soup ladle across the kitchen. Thankfully, I'm a good shot, and I hit the sink and not like miss and went through like a window or something. But I went from being like pretty easygoing and even keeled to just crying for no reason. And that's actually what led me to the menopause support group, because I realized that was going on. And so what I did too, because I like to read a lot and I like to learn about stuff, I started reading about why this even happens with our menopause and what's behind it. And some ideas that kept coming up that I found really interesting was in the animal kingdom, babies are dependent on their mothers for food and protection and survival. And if the babies don't survive into adulthood, then this whole species goes extinct. And with humans, it's not much different. I mean, the mothers are the caregivers, the nurturers. It was always safer for the children to have the mother around, and then the mother needed to be protected as well to help take care of the kids. So when you're in that dynamic, you don't want to be like alienating everybody and mad and angry and all the time. So our hormones, especially, I think I read it was the estradiol, kept us fertile, kept us in that nurturing mode, wanting us to take care of our babies and get along with everyone. But by doing that, we kept our own wants and needs suppressed so that we could take care of everyone else around us and keep ourselves and our offspring safe. Now, as humans, menopause comes and our hormones shift us out of that fertile, pleasing stage of life. And the effect of those shifted hormones is that those hormones that kept us sweet, sexy, and submissive, like you said, Robin, that layer starts to thin. It's like that veil just starts thinning. And stuff that we used to keep down is just it's just coming up. I like to associate it with, you take a bottle of soda and just shake it up, and just imagine shaking it up for 40 plus years, and then opening it up and whoo, everything's coming out all over the place, because that's 40 plus years of suppressed wants and needs that come spewing out. And so then we find rage. So we find ourselves saying things that we never would have said. We found ourselves getting mad about stuff that never used to bother us before. And then that makes us stressed out and anxious and scared because, oh my God, what's happening to me? Am I losing my mind? Is everybody going to hate me? Am I going to alienate everybody I know? And then, of course, that doesn't make it better when we start beating ourselves up for that kind of response. We find next thing we know, we prided ourselves, especially for like a professional environment, of keeping ourselves, our emotions controlled and, all of that stuff. And then we find ourselves sobbing in the bathroom at work. People talk about it, and I totally agree. It's like we feel like we can't trust ourselves anymore with our own emotions, and we don't know who we are. Now, as society has evolved in humanity, women have more choices now. We have more opportunities, expectations, priorities, goals. Not all of us are mothers, but Mother Nature is still following the plan. Because again, like you said, this is all natural. And so there is a plan set in place of how our bodies evolve. So
I can blame it all on Mother Nature.
You can, because this is the way it's set, and for all of us. But what's really beautiful about this is it really, which may seem kind of out there, but this is actually a really good time for us as women to take an opportunity to recalibrate. Rather than being upset over these mood swings, we can look at them as signposts showing us who we really are and where we want to be and what really matters to us. And so what's helped me the most, I would say over the last year or so, is understanding that I'm not losing my mind, that I'm not all of a sudden gone like psycho on my family. It's just that the tears that come up, any anger, any frustration, that's just old stuff of mine that I don't need anymore. I don't need anymore now that I'm 50 and beyond. It can just come up and be released. And so what I found helpful in the beginning was that when something like that would catch me off guard, or I would start crying over something I read on a Facebook post, and then ask myself, well, what is this about? What's this really about? And that can give you some clues, because maybe it's a boundary that I've let people cross. And it's like, you know what? I'm not going to do this anymore. I don't need to do this anymore. Or maybe it's a pleasing tendency that I don't need to have anymore, or whatever it is. Just like, what's this really about? Oh, it's a value. It's like, I'm not going to stand for this anymore. It was really very helpful for me. And once I was able to do that, I was not afraid when those things happen, when those crying jags come up, or I have that flash of rage. I didn't have to be upset by it. It was just like, oh, okay, that's interesting. What is this about? And even then, sometimes I would be sitting there going, I have no idea what this is about. And that's okay too. Because as long as I know it's just something, it's just yuck from somewhere along the way that's just bubbling itself up and off. And I can even just say, okay, and this even letting it go. So what I do is I allow myself to feel it. I don't try to stuff it back down, because when you, as you know, Robin, when you try to stuff down these emotions or these things, they pop up in other places. It either pops up in a
and something pop up physically.
It can pop up physically.
when
It can
you are
pop up.
suppressing all those emotions.
Exactly. So instead, if you just allow yourself to feel it, knowing that it's going to pass, I even like to help it along. It's like, okay, I feel it moving through me, and imagine it just leaving me. And, or like, I'm pulling it off like a layer of clothing. It's like I'm pulling off a sweater when that comes up. The more that I did that, the interval in between them coming up was farther apart, and it didn't bother me as much. It hasn't lasted long. And every now and again, I'll still get hit with something that make me start crying. And I'll tell my family, you know what, nothing's wrong. Everything's fine. I'm just letting something go that I don't need anymore. Something's, just doing an emotional release. And they're like, whatever, Marty. but they get it. I can laugh about it a little bit as well with them, but just understanding that that's what's going on.
Right.
And
So
so,
that is so true. That's the emotional side of having mood swing, is recognizing that those old emotions are coming up
Mhm.
and allowing them to have their space and allowing them to leave off of you.
Yeah.
And a lot of times with my clients, especially during this time of life, these are times that they go, okay, I really don't know where I'm going with all of this or why I'm having this. And
Mhm.
I'll do a talk therapy session with them. And
Yeah.
boy, just the ability to talk about where they're coming from, why that happened, where did
Mhm.
that memory come, and being able to help them release those old emotional memories that don't serve them. They're old belief systems. They're old sorrows. They're old hurts. It
Yeah.
keeps coming up, and they come up because your hormone or thinning. And so,
Yeah.
because kept all that stuff. Because I mean, think about it. When we were in our younger years, or 20s or 30s,
Mhm.
40s, we were raising kids. We were working. Our life was very, very active. So we didn't have a
Yeah.
lot of time just to process all that
Right.
emotional stuff. So it all got stuffed down, like you said. And so when it starts coming to our 50s, then it starts bubbling up, bubbling up, bubbling up. And that is why we have those crying jags and those sparks of extreme angriness and everything in between, is because we are dealing with those old emotions, like Marty said.
Yeah.
And several things that you can do. Number one, you can talk to wonderful people like us to
Yeah.
help process that out and to forgive, release, to heal, just to sometimes to get it out. And that does make a huge, huge difference in a person's life. There's some practical things you can do, like staying physically active, regular exercise, meditation, yoga, Pilates. These help to improve your mood. They help to reduce anxiety. They help to allow your mind to settle down, like we had talked about earlier, so that you could sort out what is coming up and at you. And this is a time in our life when we are slowing down, so we can take a little bit more time for our self care. And if you're feeling those mood swings and those stresses that are coming up because of the mood swings, then these are keys, these are flags, these are cues to say, hey, what am I doing in my physical life? Am I getting out there, getting some fresh air, walking? Am I staying connected? And this is another one that is a really big key, is staying connected with
Mhm.
our social connections, with our friends, with our loved one, talking about our feelings and our experiences with people that we trust, number one, and allowing yourself a little love, care, and patience during this time. Because your body is not acting the way that it did when it was in its 20s, 30s, or 40s. It needs some help. It needs you to understand what it's going through and to be patient with it. And yes, you don't want to break relationships because you just went off the charts on an anger rate. But you want to be able to come down and go, well, yeah, I'm better now. Just chamomile tea. And then you can calm yourself down. It's the staying connected part is really, really important and really, really key to helping your mood swings to balance out. What do you think, Mari?
Yeah, I agree 100%. I was reading a book by, I think it's Dr. Mark Hyman. I think it was, don't quote me on this, I think it was called Living Young or Young Living or something. But one of the things that he stresses, it's like you said, for improved health and longevity, is paying attention to your body, is the self-care, but also nurturing those relationships and creating that sense of community. And this is a time in our life where a lot of things are changing with us socially. If our kids are leaving the nest or we're changing jobs, so we're retiring, but then we also had the last couple of years of everybody kind of isolating themselves with COVID. I mean, it was getting very, very difficult. I found with my own self, of having those connections with other people other than those that lived in my household or my best friend who lives an hour away. Creating that connection. I didn't realize until I had listened to this book that that is just as important as, yes, eating healthy, getting your exercise and such, but that community, those relationships. So one of the things that I did, because I don't really didn't know anybody, I found some like-minded people. She's now a good friend of mine, created a Facebook group for our community of friends that want to get together for coffee or do a book club. We found ourselves now what we like to do is go play trivia once a week at the local pub. It's just for fun. I sit around and I told them, I said, I do this for my health. And I can totally get, because it is for me, when you're in your day, you just don't want to do it. You don't want to make the effort to fix your hair and get dressed presentable and go out and be around people. Don't necessarily want to do that. And that's the hardest part of getting out there. But then today, that struck me, it's very similar to those of us that don't love exercise, but know that we have to do it for our health. So just like, okay, well, I don't really want to get off the couch and go exercise, but I do it for my health. I don't necessarily want to get off the couch and go and be social, but I do it for my health. And there's a lot of resources out there you can look on, like there's meetup groups. Just look in your local community. I found if I could find some people to hang with, and there's beautiful people I never would have met any other way, most people could.
Right. Well, and also too, jumping on to our menopause Facebook group, jumping into the VIP menopause Facebook group. I mean, these are two amazing resources that you can develop friendships, you can get good information, you can see us on there. We're always very interactive. And all these things, all these little pieces help to make the bigger picture. And this is why we bring all this information to you, is because it's not a one size fits all kind of formula. You have to do little things. You have to take care of your mental health. You have to take care of your spiritual health. You have to take care of your physical health. And when you finally start putting all the pieces together and you have like a nice flow and a nice balance in your life, then when something pops up like an emotional jag, you can go, okay, I know what that is. I know what that is. And I know how to take care of it. And now you have tools in your toolbox and start looking at that. You can release it. You can let it go. You can talk to somebody. You can adjust your diet. You can do a little bit more exercise out there. And that's what Marty and I are trying to do, is just give you choices, give you new pieces of tools in your toolbox to be able to find your balance, find your flow, find out who you are, and so that you can live a nice, balanced, healthy life. And that's the aim of what we're trying to do here. So,
Yeah. And that's well said, very well said, Robin. And just coming back around is, I'm going to say this probably over and over again, is that we don't need to go through this alone. We don't need to suffer in silence or feel like our whole world's falling apart and we're the only ones. Robin and I, we love doing this show, and we're looking forward to more episodes. We have other group experts coming on, so you're going to get to meet other Menowave care providers and hear from them. And it's just so you guys know, like Robin said, we've given you a bunch of tools in the toolbox, but if there's something that you're really stuck on or you're struggling with, or if it's something deeper, like on the emotional side, something that keeps popping up for you, or you just can't get past, reach out to us. We are to a care expert, or if there's someone in your own community, we, as the Menowave care providers, we all have varying backgrounds and areas of expertise, and we've been through it, or we know people that have gone through it, and we are here to help.
I'm just going to kind of wrap it up, but I just want to say the last thing is, remember that menopause it's a natural phase of life. And while the symptoms can be challenging, they are manageable. And it's important to listen to your body, prioritize your self-care, and seek help if you need it. Reach out, because you don't want to do this by yourself. Always make sure that you consult a healthcare provider, your doctor. Always discuss whatever is going on with you and explore other options, natural or medical, whatever fits your need. And that is really the key, is just listening to yourself. How about you, Marty? Any wrap-up thought?
Just one wrap-up thing. If you are looking for more specialized care, don't forget to go to menowave.org and do a care assessment. What happens is then we get that information, and if it's somebody that we can help or we think we can help, we'll reach out to you. Check your emails. Make sure to check your emails and see if we're reaching out to you to connect up. This has been so much fun.
And we just hit the top of the iceberg. So Once again, stay tuned because we're going to have some really great people on and lots more information for you. So,
Yeah. You heading back to the beach?
I am. I know. Back to the beach and getting back into the cool waves.
Nice. I'm jealous. I've got to put myself to bed so I can get up at the crack of dawn and take my kids to school tomorrow. But wonderful to see you, Robin. And thank you to everyone who is tuning in and supporting us, and reach out to us. You can reach us. You're allowed to message us on Facebook if you'd like, or reach out to us. Comments. Yes. Comments. Let us know what you want to hear. What do you want to know about? And we'll make sure to ask care providers when they come on.
All right.
Sounds good.
Very good. Bye, Marty.
Bye, Robin. Bye, everybody. Thank you for joining us on this empowering journey through menopause in the Menowave Lounge. We hope you found our discussions insightful and comforting as we navigate this phase of life together. If you're looking to connect with one of our expert Menowave care providers for personalized advice and support, head over to our website at menowave.org. There, you'll find more information about our team of seasoned professionals, each dedicated to helping you get through this journey with confidence and grace. At menowave.org, you can also fill out a brief assessment to help us better understand your unique needs. Based on your responses, we'll match you with care providers who align perfectly with your individual requirements. Remember, you don't have to face menopause alone. Our team is here to provide the guidance and care you deserve. So take that step towards reclaiming your well-being and connect with a Menowave care provider today. Don't forget to watch the Menowave Lounge in the VIP Menopause group on Facebook for more advice and conversation. Together, we'll continue to break down barriers, share stories, and embrace the sometimes hard-to-find beauty of this transformative journey. Thank you again for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next episode of the Menowave Lounge, hot flashes and cool conversations.